Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Sam Buffington in the short-run Western Luke-Slaughter-of-Tombstone. This episode goes back to April 13th, 1958, the Wagon Train.
Slaughter's my name, Luke Slaughter. Cattle's my business. It's a tough business. It's big business. I've got a big stake in it. And there's no man west of the Rio Grande big enough to take it from me.
Luke Slaughter of Tombstone. Luke Slaughter of Tombstone, Civil War cavalryman turned Arizona cattleman. Across the territory from Yuma to Fort Defiance, from Flagstaff to the Huachucas, and below the border through Chihuahua and Sonora, his name was respected, or feared, depending on which side of the law you were on. Man of vision, man of legend, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone.
Carl Justice was dead. Bushwhacked in the Chiricahuas for the $10,000 he was carrying. But Justice wasn't dead. The posse from the Cattlemen's Association would see to that if we had to cover every half section between the petrified forest and the Mexican border. And it looked like we might. At least the first day in the saddle, we didn't find a trace of Justice's killer or the gold. We were a tired bunch of Ranahans when we came back to town that afternoon. All right, boys, get yourselves a good night's rest. Be ready to ride again at sunup.
Come on. Well, howdy, Luke.
Hello, Wichita.
You look like you've been eating a lot of dust.
I have.
You turn up anything?
Nothing. Not a single sign.
The killer's got to leave a sign.
This one didn't.
Sure is a shame. Carl ought to knowed better than to try carrying all that money over to Bisbee by himself.
But he didn't. Oh, man, I'm tired.
You going to go out to the ranch tonight?
No, I'll grab some shut-eye over at the office. Let's go.
Hold up a minute. You can't get by this outfit.
4 wagons. It's a pretty small train to be traveling alone.
Keep it moving.
Real driving boss, ain't he? Bet he wasn't raised on prunes and proverbs.
Yeah. You know, Wichita, it's a funny thing about that outfit.
What's that?
No kids. Not a single one.
Yeah, that is peculiar. Usually they got young'uns festooned all over, from the driver's box to the tailgate.
Well, I'm gonna spread out on the cot back there.
Yeah, you do that, Luke. And you better unlimber your guns. You ain't had 'em off since you rode out of here before dawn.
Yeah. I'll drop 'em here on the desk.
Yeah. And pull your hat down over your eyes, Luke. Anybody come around asking fool questions, I'll take care of 'em.
Thanks, Wichita. I sure wish I could find some trace of that killer.
Oh, forget it now, Luke. I want to hear you snoring inside of 2 minutes. Carl Justice can't get no deader than he is right now. Evening, stranger. What can I do for you?
You can reach, mister.
This is the office of the Cattlemen's Association, stranger. Why the 6-gun?
I'm asking the questions. Who's the hombre on the bed?
Why,
Answer me.
Oh, him! Drunk, sleeping it off.
So you're the famous Luke Slaughter of Tombstone.
What do you want, stranger?
That's what I wanted, Slaughter. Put you to sleep for a while.
Wichita! Wichita! I shouldn't have taken my guns off. You get your wits back. I'll take over now.
Hey, Slaughter. Slaughter, they broke a window and I was fixing to rob a bank.
Who was?
Well, there was two of them, and now they're riding east out of town.
Oh.
Well, ain't you going to follow them?
Why should I?
Well, you're head of the posse for the cattlemen. You're supposed to.
What about that other rider headed west?
Well, he weren't nowhere near the bank. He come out of your office.
That's right.
Well, Slaughter, now look, we standing here yammering. Them thieves is getting that much farther.
Did they get anything?
No, but I told you they broke a window.
I've got bigger problems than a broken window. Go chase them yourself.
Well, hold a high-handed cloud in the trailways to wink at a plain case of law breaking.
What's going on anyway, Luke?
I don't know, Wichita. I wish I did.
That hombre had no call to pistol whip me.
He wouldn't have gotten away with it if I'd had my guns. But remember, he thought he was pistol whipping me, Wichita.
Say, that's right. Well, ain't you gonna try to chase him down?
No, it's almost dark. Besides, who would you chase? The two riding east who broke the window in the bank? Or the one riding west who dented your skull?
Well, yeah. Clean getaway on all counts, huh?
No, Wichita, I don't think so. I've got an idea. But right now, let's get over to the old docks and get a plaster for your scalp. You might need your head before the night's out.
Luke, you ain't told me one blame thing about where we're going or what you're up to.
I'm not sure myself.
Well, just riding in the moonlight won't get us nowhere. Besides, I'd think you'd had yourself enough riding for one day.
I have. I don't cotton to a stranger cracking you over the side of the head with a pistol.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Luke, but...
And there are some other things that just don't fit.
Such as?
Now, why did those bank robbers break a window? That's noise. The last thing a thief wants.
Why, Dogies, that's right. But that still don't explain why we're night riding out here a mile west of town, headed for California.
We're not going that far, Wichita. Rein up.
What there?
Oh.
Whoa, stand still. Yeah, now what?
Well, I figure the wagon train that came through town just before sundown couldn't have gotten any further than Mule Crossing before it bedded down.
What of it?
I'm going to pay him a visit.
Luke, this ain't no time for being social.
This isn't social, Wichita. This is business.
You think that wagon train had something to do with all these things been going on?
Maybe. You wait here behind these rocks and don't move out for anybody. I'll whistle when I come back.
Why you want me to stay here?
Because I think I'm going to need you later.
Hope you know what you're doing.
I'll know better in a half hour. So long.
So long, you dead blame tight mouth.
Hold up. And don't you turn around.
Evening.
What's your business, stranger?
I want to talk to the boss of this wagon train.
Why?
Are you the boss?
No.
Then I'm talking to the wrong man. Where's your boss?
Put up your hands and move on. Slow. Hey, Burwell.
Yeah.
This is Lanigan. I'm coming in.
Come on in. Don't sit out there and yell about it.
I got me a snooper.
Well, that's different.
Here he is, Burwell. Riding in like he owned the camp.
Yeah. Well, we ain't much for visitors when they come at us in the dark, mister. What you want?
Some information.
What kind?
How many people in your train? Where you're headed? Where you camped last night? And where you were on the trail the day before that?
Nosy, ain't he?
Maybe you gents ought to know my name.
Well, what is it?
Slaughter. Luke Slaughter.
He ain't Luke Slaughter,
Shut
Burwell.
up, Lanigan. I'll handle this.
Just who did you think I was, Lanigan?
Why,
We're
I
pleased
don't...
to make your acquaintance, Slaughter. My name is Burwell. Why don't you light and enjoy the fire?
Thanks, Burwell.
How about those questions of yours? Why do you want to know about us?
For your own protection. There was a murder 10 miles east of Tombstone early last night. We haven't found the killer yet.
A bushwhacking, huh?
Yeah. And whoever did it got away with several $1,000s in gold.
Oh, say, that's too bad.
There's a couple of other things, too. Just after you passed through town before sunset, there was an attempt to rob the bank.
You don't say.
And a good friend of mine named Wichita got pistol-whipped while that was happening.
Well, things are kind of active in Tombstone, ain't they? Well, now, you don't think that my little outfit...
I think that your outfit might be in for trouble if it met up with any of these lawbreakers.
Oh, I see.
Those questions, Burwell.
Oh, sure, Slaughter. Well, there's 11 of us. There's 8 men, 3 women. We left Dodge City several weeks ago, headed for the ocean. Camped on the trail last night, no special place.
Have you seen anything or anybody unusual?
No, can't say I have.
Well, keep your eyes open, Burwell. I wouldn't want to see an innocent wagon train get dry-gulched.
Oh, we'll do that, Slaughter. Mighty nice of you to ride out to tell us.
Friendly thing to do, I figure.
We ain't got much by way of hospitality, but I could lay the dust a little for you.
Well, now, that'd go down real good on a night like this.
Molly.
Yeah, Hank.
Bring the whiskey. A man's kind of apt to forget his manners out on the trail, Slaughter.
Here's the jug, Hank.
Yeah. Oh, this here is Luke Slaughter, Molly. Here's my wife.
Howdy, ma'am.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Slaughter.
Why don't you try this for size?
Thanks. Just right.
Well, it's turning into a cold night. Have another.
No, thanks. That does it. It's time I got back to town. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Burwell, one thing has me curious.
What's that, Mr. Slaughter?
Every wagon train I've ever seen carried at least half a dozen kids. You don't seem to have any.
Some people don't have children.
I guess that's right. It was just a thought.
You're being pretty personal, ain't you, Slaughter?
I didn't mean to be. So long, Lanigan. Maybe we'll meet up again sometime.
Yeah, sure.
Like I said, Burwell, be careful. Adios.
In a moment, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone returns.
April 13th, 1958, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, April 13th, 1958, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone.
And now, Act Two of William N. Robeson's production of Luke Slaughter of Tombstone.
About time you was getting back, Luke. I was beginning to know all the coyotes by name.
It was worth it, Wichita. I've been talking to the man that pistol-whipped you a few hours ago.
You was?
And after that bunch has had a chance to think it over, I think we'll both be talking to him.
It makes sense, will you, Luke?
That wagon train, Wichita. It's the headquarters for everything that's been happening around here lately.
It is? Well, you just ain't gonna leave them out there and let them go on.
No. Unless I'm dead wrong, they're gonna send a man gunning for me. And I think I know who it'll be.
That pistol whipper?
Yeah. Listen.
That's one horse, Luke.
And one rider. He's got to slow down to get through these rocks. And when he does, jump him.
That will be a pleasure.
Hey!
Don't reach or I'll drop you.
What is this?
Get his guns, Wichita.
Already got 'em, Luke.
Slaughter.
Yeah, Lanigan, Slaughter.
Can a man ride into town for a peaceful drink without being ambushed?
Light.
But I don't see why...
Get off that horse.
Yeah. Sure.
Lanigan, I want you to meet a friend of mine. Wichita, this is the man who laid that gun barrel alongside your ear this evening.
I ought to kill you same as I would a skunk.
Wait a minute, boys.
It's against my nature to fight an unarmed man, Lanigan. Any one of his guns, Wichita. Barrel first.
Luke.
Now put it in your holster, Lanigan. And you're welcome to use it anytime you want to.
Slaughter,
Tell me the real story about that wagon train, Lanigan.
Why, I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you ever been pistol whipped?
No.
You're about to learn what it feels like unless you care to draw.
Slaughter, for the love of heaven, don't...
Killed Carl Justice.
But I never heard of no Carl Justice.
He had $10,000 in gold yesterday.
What's that
now
got
he's
to do
dead.
with me?
Who killed him? You tell me, or I'm going to rake a gun sight through your left ear. Talk or draw, Lanigan. Who killed him? You want another one?
No. It was Burwell. He told me not to, but he put up a fight, and Burwell...
A man doesn't fight with his back. Why did you pistol whip Wichita?
Well, it was Burwell's idea. He heard about you, and he thought that if you was laid low for a while, people would want to go after whoever
That's what I figured.
Yeah. And then a couple of the boys broke that window in the bank to make it look like...
Burwell's a pretty smart man, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He sure is.
But he made the mistake of getting feather-headed yellow gunslingers like you to work for him.
Look, you can't call me...
I am calling you. If it isn't true, draw. Take his gun, Wichita. He won't use it.
Oh, Slaughter, please give me a chance. Just let me go, and I'll go back to Dodge, and I'll never come out this way again.
Wichita, head his horse back toward camp and give it a slap.
Sure, Luke.
Oh, what you gonna do, Slaughter?
I'm gonna use you for bait. Wichita, you walk him back into town.
Well, where are you going?
I'm not through here yet. Oh, and get a message to Sutton. Tell him to wake up the posse and spread him around the cattleman's office, ready to shoot.
Well, you can't face that whole wagon train by yourself.
I won't have to, Wichita. When Lanigan's horse gets back to camp, they'll know something went wrong, and most of them will go to town looking for me. That's why I want that posse standing by.
Well, what do you want me to do with this here tail-dragging specimen when I get him back to town?
Tie him up in the back room of the cattleman's office and wait for me. Oh, and don't light any lanterns.
You don't have no objections if I have to ruffle this waddy up some, do you?
None at all.
Well, come on, you. Walk!
Get your hands up. All of you.
Who's out there?
Luke-Slaughter, ma'am. Now do as I tell you.
What you holding a gun for, Slaughter?
Are there any guards out?
No. All the men folk rode into town a while back.
I liked your hospitality so well, Mrs. Burwell. I came back for some more of it.
Then put that gun away. You don't need that.
I think I might. You see, Mrs. Burwell, I know the whole story.
What do you mean?
Lanigan talked. That's what I mean.
Well, now, that puts a different light on things.
How so?
Burwell lied to you about me.
He lied about everything.
But this is important. I'm not his wife.
What of it?
You're a good-looking man, Mr. Slaughter. Make some woman a fine husband. A rich woman, Luke.
Meaning?
I know where there's a sack of gold big enough to last a man and a woman like you and me for the rest of our lives.
I'll bet you do.
Why don't you call me Molly?
All right, Molly.
Have you ever kissed a high-spirited woman, Luke?
Why don't we get rid of the company first?
What do you want to do with them?
Tie 'em up. Spread-eagled on a wagon wheel.
Ah, you sure are smart. We're going to get along fine.
Don't you know it? April 13th, 1958, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion follows these messages from your favorite radio station. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell and MyPillow launching the MyPillow 2.0. Now, when Mike invented MyPillow, it had everything you could want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he's discovered a new technology that makes MyPillow even better. Of course, the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but now with brand new fabric with a temperature-regulating thread, it's the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. Say goodbye to tossing and turning and flipping your pillow over in the middle of the night. And more great news on the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer with my promo code Wyatt. MyPillow 2.0 is 100% made in the USA, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio podcast square to receive the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer. Use my promo code Wyatt or call 1-800-928-4715. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Luke Slaughter of Tombstone and the Wagon Train that really isn't a wagon train. April 13th, 1958.
Now about that gold, Molly.
No hurry, is there?
You might as well tell me now.
I don't know as I can trust you yet.
No. No, you don't.
But I want to. It's in a chest in the lead wagon.
Thanks. Now stand over there with the rest of them.
What?
I'm going to tie you up too, Molly.
Slaughter, if I had a gun...
I know. I'd be dead. Just like Carl Justice.
Is that you, Luke?
Yeah.
Well, what's that sack you're carrying?
The gold that belonged to Carl Justice. Burwell show up?
Yeah, with 6 of his partners. Come up on the boardwalk out front. Thought they was going to break in for a minute, but they decided against it. Heard one of them say it'd make too much commotion.
Where'd they go?
Right across the street there to the Oriental.
That means when we fire up some lanterns, we'll have visitors. Is the posse spread out?
Just like you said. On the roof of the Oriental, on top of the bank, the dry goods store and express company.
Good. How's Lanigan?
Well, he's going to have a sore head before he hangs. I had to persuade him just a little before he'd go to sleep.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Well, let's get this over with. I'm going out the front door. You light the lamps in the office.
By jogies, this does my old heart good.
There he is now, boys. Come on.
Stay where you are, Burwell.
Now, Slaughter, boys and me just want to talk to you.
Do your talking from right there.
I don't like to shout up and down the street.
I do. Before you say anything else, I think you ought to know that you're covered by 18 guns, 20 including mine. And in case you think I'm not telling the truth, I'll ask the men on the top of the bank to speak up. Now, just what did you want to talk about, Burwell?
Let's forget it, Slaughter. Me and the boys will be moseying along now.
No, you won't. I've got some talking to do. Your women folk are tied up to the wagons out at your camp. One of your gunslingers is tied up in the office behind me, and he talked. And this, Burwell, this is $10,000 in gold that I got out of your lead wagon. It belonged to Carl Justice before you killed him. You got anything to say now, Burwell?
I reckon you said it all.
Then drop your guns and step forward. All of you. All right, men. Close in and take them.
Luke, that is the dangest thing I ever seen. Got every single one of them and didn't smoke up the town a bit.
Sometimes you're lucky, Wichita. But don't fool around with a red-hot branding iron until you're ready for the roundup.
Luke-Slaughter of Tombstone, starring Sam Buffington, was written by Alan Botzer and directed by William N. Robeson. Editorial supervision by Tom Handley. Supporting Mr. Buffington were Gene Carson, Junius Matthews, Lawrence Dobkin, and Chet Stratton, with music composed and conducted by Amerigo Marino. Next week at this time, we return with...
Slaughter's the name. Luke Slaughter. When we meet up again, you can call me that. Luke Slaughter.
Despite what some accounts say, Sam Buffington was only 26 years old when he portrayed Luke Slaughter of Tombstone. Very fine actor. And he just hadn't gotten his break at this point in time. He was one of the main players in Whispering Smith, the Audie Murphy TV show that was being filmed at the time of his passing. He committed suicide in 1960 at the age of 28. Police say a note was found indicating he committed suicide by turning on a gas jet. His wife, and he said he couldn't provide for his wife. Well, his wife said they weren't in any financial distress. Sam worked in a Bourbon Street Beat TV segment only 2 weeks before his suicide. Luke Slaughter of Tombstone, a show that should have been a hit had it not been done in 1958. Seventh episode, April 13th, 1958, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, The Wind-Up, Part 5 of the 5-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, The Laird Douglas of Heatherscote Matter. This originally broadcast Friday, April 13th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Ronald Kenworthy, Mr. Dollar.
Good. I want to talk to you. Are you at your home?
I am. And after the
Okay, then stay right there and I'll be over to see you.
Why don't you send the police instead?
What's that supposed to mean?
A few minutes ago in Mrs. Van Pyten's library, before you kicked me out, you practically accused me of the murder of her nephew.
Did I?
Well, didn't you? Didn't you?
All right, Ronnie, just calm down and stay put until I can get over there.
You mean you aren't afraid I might try to take a powder, as you high-handed detectives like to put it? You mean you aren't worried that...
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Philadelphia Mutual Liability and Casualty Company. Following is the final report in my investigation of the Laird Douglas of Heatherscote matter. The whole case started out almost as a lark when I discovered that I'd come to Philadelphia to act as bodyguard to Laird Douglas, and for a fat fee and virtually unlimited expense accounts. Me, bodyguard to a dog. But it ceased to be funny when I learned that the dog's 2 previous caretakers had been murdered. And when, only a few hours ago, an attempt was made on my life that ended with the death of young Warren Staley.
Yes, Mr. Dollar, I see. I guess I was so upset by the death of my nephew that I didn't realize the attempt was really made on your life.
The second attempt, Mrs. Van Pyten.
What?
Shortly after I arrived in Philadelphia, somebody planted a booby trap in my suitcase in my hotel room.
Good heavens, no. And you think that Ronald Kenworthy did that, too?
Well, what do you think?
Well, yes. Now that poor dear Warren is gone, there's nothing to prevent the Kenworthy estate from achieving control of the Van Pyton holdings. That is, if I were to die.
Go on.
Upon the death of Harrison Kenworthy, the whole financial empire would be inherited by his son Ronald.
So I understand.
Ronald. And he would be the wealthiest, the most powerful man financially in the United States. Ronald, who pretended to be Warren's best friend. Who pretended to love me. It's a terrible thought, isn't it?
Apparently adds up, though, doesn't it?
There is no question of it. But what evidence have you?
None yet.
Well, then I'll help you get it. And I can do it, Mr. Dollar. I may appear to be only a wealthy, foolish old woman who dotes on her pet, Laird Douglas. But I'm not. I'm astute, shrewd, and clever. Since Peter, my husband, died, I alone have managed this estate, this financial empire. I use the word again. With my money, with my... Oh, yes, I can do it, Mr. Dollar, and Ronald will be made to pay for these terrible things that he has done.
I admire your confidence.
Nothing. No one can stand in my way. You'll see. I'm only sorry that a few minutes ago you didn't keep him here, make him face it.
I'm going to see him now.
Oh, where?
At his home. I understand the estate adjoins this one.
Yes. But please, look out for him. Shoot first, Mr. Dollar.
What?
Because now he may act like the cornered rat that he is.
I decided to walk across to the Kenworthy estate in the hope the fresh air would help clear my thoughts. Logical as it all seemed, I didn't like what I just heard. Then luck, pure, unadulterated luck. As I walked across the broad lawn between the main house and the gatehouse, I passed the garage building with its Rolls-Royce, 2 Cadillacs, and a station wagon. And then I saw him. Andy LaForte, alias Andrew Fortune, alias Andrew Ford, one of the cleverest second-story men in the country, with a record on the West Coast as long as your arm. A man who would do anything for money. He was idly going through the motion of dusting off a car. I walked past quickly, not sure whether he'd noticed me or not. I hope not. For it was one of his ilk who'd had to plant the booby trap in my hotel room, who could have slipped the poison into the liquor that killed Warren Staley. I turned in at the gatekeeper's house.
Mr. Dollar, I saw you at the question.
I want a
about that
telephone,
young...
quick.
Right here, sir. Is something
Thanks.
wrong?
Operator, get me Central Police, emergency.
Good heavens, Mr. Dollar. Something
The man
else
there in the
happened?
garage, polishing cars.
Andy?
How long has he been here?
Oh, a year more. Ever since the dog show at Valley Kid.
What does he do?
Year. Oh, the driving for Mrs. Van Payton, but something going on.
Hello? Give me Lieutenant Howard, homicide. After warning the old gatekeeper that I'd have his head if he said anything to anyone about my phone call, I left by the back door and went over to the Kenworthy mansion where young Ronald was waiting for me.
I must say, before we go any further, that I resent the way you ordered me out of the Van Pyton house a few minutes ago.
Yeah? Well, I'm sorry.
Whether you suspect me or expect me to help you in this case, it was
Lonnie, you knew Warren Staley.
Very well. We were the closest of friends, confidants.
All right. Just how much did he really care about the Van Pyton estate? Fortune, whatever you want to call it.
To put it bluntly, he wanted none of it. And I'm afraid his aunt rather resented it.
Well, why do you say that?
Because her whole life she's been obsessed by an almost overwhelming lust for power. When Warren finally rebelled against this, she tried not to show it, but she hated him for it. Unlike my father.
Oh?
I feel as Warren felt. And my father and I together have been laying the groundwork for dissipating the Kenworthy estate into corporate setups that will benefit many instead of just us. Does that sound strange to you?
It sounds like true philanthropy, if you mean it.
You must believe me, it is, and I do mean it. Oh, I won't suffer, of course. I'll still retain some control here and there, but I'll have to work at it, instead of just carrying on the tradition of the idle rich. I'll be a man.
I hope you're telling me the truth, Ronnie. I believe you are, and I'd like to meet your father.
You will. Needless to say, it was much harder for him to break from this tradition of financial power than for me. So perhaps you can see why I admire him above all other men. Anything else?
I'll see you later.
I was worried about you, Mr. Dollar, going over there to see Ronald Kenworthy alone after all that has happened.
Yes, you should have been, Mrs. Van Pyton. Especially if you noticed that I passed by the garage on the way.
What?
I happened to notice someone there, and I think it answered a lot of questions for me. It was Andy LaForte,
Andrew, my private chauffeur.
Is that all he is?
Oh, do you know him, Mr. Dollar?
Look, I took on this case, Mrs. Van Pyten, because you offered me a fee too good to be turned down and an almost unlimited expense account.
You haven't answered my...
I should have got wise then and there. But I thought your great passion for your dog was just an amusing foible of an immensely wealthy, kind of foolish old lady.
Oh, Laird Douglas is a dear one, isn't he? Why, Mr. Dollar...
Let me add things up. A few minutes ago, you told me that thanks to your wealth and a very sharp, clever mind, you'd let nothing stand in the way of anything you chose to do.
Please, Mr. Dollar, I don't think I understand.
All right. You made a contract with Harrison Kenworthy that you'd marry him when and if Laird Douglas beat that pup of his at the dog show. An apparently silly sort of thing, yet everybody believed it. But the real reason for marriage to him was solely to acquire control of his holdings, increase this financial empire of yours. Very subtle. Kept you looking like a cute, whimsical old lady.
Why, this is the most absurd thing I ever heard of.
So I thought at first, but let me go on.
Oh, please do.
When you realized that Laird Douglas wasn't ready to beat that dog of his, rather than admit defeat, rather than lose the chance to make this marriage, you ordered the murder of the dog's handlers. Then the contract was still in force, just delayed.
I won't listen to such terrible things.
You'll listen whether you like it or not. You learned that Kenworthy and his son were planning to dissipate their fortune and thereby put it beyond your reach.
Mr.
On top of
Dollar.
this, your own nephew, Warren, wanted to do the same with your estate. This was too much.
What you have said is too much.
Then, by the time I arrived, you learned from an expert, Ray Rowland, that your dog would never stand a chance against Kenworthy's. So you wouldn't dare let him compete, at least until you'd hooked Kenworthy some other way. And part of your whole scheme was to build up evidence of attempts against you, through the dog, of course, though I'll bet you actually hate the mutt.
No, that's not true.
Anyhow, from the moment I talked to Ray Rowland, I was only in the way. So you tried to get rid of me, had somebody booby-trap my luggage.
Oh, you have no proof.
Andy LaForte, this so-called chauffeur of yours, would do anything for money. And I fully intend to break him down and make him admit you hired him as a killer.
Listen to me.
On the second try, the poison liquor, your nephew Warren got it instead of me. Fine. Another obstacle out of your way. After all, he had opposed you.
Mr. Dollar, how much do you want? I can make you financially independent
Then
for the
you
rest
set your sights on Ronald Kenworthy, who was trying to break up the other empire you wanted to get your hands on. You even hoped that somehow I might help you. Shoot first, you said.
You don't understand. I was
Just
only...
what plans you had for his old man and that warped, twisted brain of yours, I don't know. But I'm sure you had plans. Well, lady, now it's too late.
No, Mr. Dollar. No, it isn't too late.
Stay away from that drawer. You'd even shoot somebody down with your own hand if you thought it necessary, wouldn't you?
But it isn't necessary, Mr. Dollar.
Huh?
Are you sure it wouldn't be easier if I were just to give you, say, $100,000 and $200,000? All right, Andrew.
Right here, Mrs. Van Pyten.
Well. Hello, Andy. Got a license for that thing?
Shut up. You want me to do it now, Mrs. Van?
Yes, Andrew.
What if the servants hit a shot? Hold it, Donna.
Don't worry, Andrew. I'll take care of things. Haven't I always for you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure. She'll take care of things. While you're pulling that trigger, she'll blast you down so fast you won't know what hit you. Make it look like we killed each other and leave her in the clear.
Quiet.
She's got a gun in that drawer beside her, and she'll use it. You hear me, Andy?
I said quiet. What you don't know is that she can't do without me. But we can do without you.
All right, Andy, wait now. Listen, will you?
Now, Mrs. Van.
All right, Andrew. Now.
Thanks, Lieutenant.
Oh, Lieutenant. Then you saw. He was going to shoot down Mr. Dollar.
Yes, I've heard, too, Mrs. Van Pyten. Plenty.
Oh, no, you don't understand. Mr. Dollar had come up here to talk to me. I wanted to offer him a great deal more money for his work for me.
I guess I almost didn't make it. Glad you keep talking to him so long.
Got a cough drop?
Is this body the Andy LaForte you mentioned? Oh, shut up!
What was that?
You heard him.
I beg your pardon.
Clever, shrewd, astute. You're just off your rocker. You'd have to be, I guess, to start a thing like this in the first place. Well, I guess by the time the estate and inheritance laws get properly applied, the Van Pyten empire will be spread around the way Warren wanted it. Expense account item 10, $28.90, fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Total, including fees, $1,113.40. Remarks? I'm glad I'm poor. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here's our star to tell you about next week's intriguing story.
Next week, an insurance swindle that really backfired. The only trouble was it caught me right in the line of fire. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone, who also wrote this week's story. Heard in our cast were Jeanette Nolan, Harry Bartell, Byron Kane, Jack Crucian, Bill James, James McCallion, Ken Christie, Dick Ryan, Bert Holland, Jack Edwards, and Hy Averback. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us on Monday night, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
April 13th, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. The usual mentions, Ted at RadioMemories.com. He provides us a number of programs. You can provide them to you on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. RadioMemories.com. MyPillow.com, promo code Wyatt, and also MyStore.com, promo code Wyatt. And also, my webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me, find our social media links, and of course, you can buy me a coffee. That buy me a coffee money goes to help us acquire additional classic radio collections to bring you here on your favorite station, and also helps us to maintain our distribution channels. Those expenses as everything else have gone up dramatically, so your help is greatly appreciated at classicradio.stream. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows of all time are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.